I'm Jay Monte with TruFan Boxing. I'm again joined by my colleague Sean Sullivan of Boxing Digest. Sean, the Boxing Hall of Fame is called. 5 members going to be inducted next year. Tyson, Chavez, Kostya Tszyu, Nacho Berenstein, and Sylvester Stallone. And a referee, Joe Cortez. What is your take on it? Tyson, obviously an immediate thing. Chavez, it's been over 5 years since he fought, no?
Well, it has to be for them to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. That's the requirement. It's a great class. I think all of them are worthy of being inducted. And there is a little controversy with Stallone going in. You know, a lot of people don't think he deserves to be in a boxing Hall of Fame when he's a filmmaker. But what he did for boxing, he really brought it to the mainstream, and he influenced a lot of fighters and inspired a lot of fighters just to take up boxing in the first place. So in that sense, he had some influence in the sport. And he also had a short-lived promotional company, Tiger Eye Boxing, back in the 80s. Right. So, I mean, he was technically involved in boxing, just briefly in that respect.
I know a lot of people remember Mike Tyson's career, the ups and downs of it. Some say maybe not a good choice. I think it is. He had basically a Hall of Fame.
Absolutely, he deserves it. He's a 2-time heavyweight champion. He reigned for about 4 years, 86 to 90, and he was one of the, well, in my opinion, he's one of the top 5 heavyweight champions of all time. Okay. I know almost no one would agree with that, but that's what I think.
Well, he was right for his time. Chavez, what more can you say about?
He's a legend. He's probably the best Mexican fighter of all time. And
no one ever could dispute or, forget that stoppage of Medrick Taylor in the last 3 seconds. I mean, that's just something that's
that was
iconic.
Okay.
It's an iconic fight. Whether you agree with it or not, it's debatable, and that's what sells
exactly,
boxing.
Yeah. Although I wouldn't put him in the Hall of Fame based on that fight.
No, but it's something that people remember. And
yeah, absolutely.
It was classic. And unfortunately, Medrick Taylor was never the same after that fight, whether he won
or who was the last person that Chavez fought?
That's a good question.
It's Kostya Tszyu, who was in the Hall of Fame with him.
Oh, that's right. That's correct. Kostya Tszyu, another marvelous career.
Absolutely.
Ever since his Olympics back in the early 90s. So they're all well-deserving. And we should ask the referee, because he's firm and fair, of whether the other guys belong.
Joe Cortez, yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's a quality referee. Like you said, he's fair but firm, and his resume speaks for itself.
I just want to go over a little change of subject now. The reviews of the last weekend's fights. We had Nonito Filipino, the Flash of the Philippines, known as the Flash.
Right, basically the second most recognized fighter in the Philippines, behind Pacquiao.
Do you think he has like an inferiority complex in the shadow of Pacquiao, or is he grateful that he's there with him?
He grew up watching Pacquiao. You know, he's grateful he's there with him. If it wasn't for Pacquiao, there wouldn't be a Nonito Donaire. Right. And he wouldn't be as recognized as he is today, despite his accomplishments and his strengths and his achievements. One
of the accomplishments he had a couple of years ago was the knockout of Vic Darchinyan, who we'll talk about later.
Right.
But over the weekend, he stopped a fighter named Sidorenko?
Vladimir Sidorenko. Basically, Donaire, he was a former flyweight champion. He won an interim belt at super flyweight, 115 pounds. Right. And he's moving back up to bantamweight now. Where he had started early in his career, he was a bantamweight, but now he's back at bantamweight. He knocked out Vladimir Sidorenko, who was a former WBA bantamweight champion, impressively, and that's going to set up potentially a tremendous bantamweight fight in February of 2011 against Fernando Montiel. Now, Montiel has a fight coming up this weekend against Eduardo Garcia. So in order for that, it's not a unification, but it's a great fight nonetheless. In order for that fight to happen, he has to beat Garcia.
Okay, I know Vic Darchinyan wants the rematch. He's been waiting for a rematch with Donaire. I know he's fighting this weekend also.
Right, but let's just go back to the December 4th card.
Right.
Top-ranked promotion. It was on pay-per-view in Anaheim, California. It was supposed to be a showcase for Chavez Jr.
Right.
He pulled out after his opponent, Alfonso Gomez, pulled out,
Right.
In steps
The
Powel
replacement.
Wolak,
The replacement
who-
became
yeah.
had a replacement.
Right. Powel Wolak steps
Right.
in, so he's left without an opponent when Chavez pulled out
Right.
with the flu, and he was on the undercard, televised,
Right.
got knocked down, came back to win.
Right.
So he put on an exciting show.
Right.
But the best fight of the night was the WBC lightweight champion Humberto Soto
Okay.
fighting Urbano Antillon in potentially the fight of the year. It took this long to get to a fight of the year, a serious candidate. We've had a few, but this one most likely could be the one.
You saw that fight, and why is it the fight of the year? Was it nonstop action every round?
Yeah, pretty much. Soto is that kind of fighter, and so is Antillon. You get those two guys in together, and Bob Arum even said, it's a shame that the networks didn't recognize this fight as having the potential that it did have.
Sean, there was a Showtime tournament with the super middleweights. Now we have a bantamweight tournament. Just describe some of the talent in that division.
Right. You got to give Ken Hirschman and Showtime credit for their super middleweight tournament with the success it had. Now they're trying to do it with the bantamweights. The Showtime tournament had several stages. The bantamweight tournament is a single elimination fight, so therefore if you lose once, you're out.
Mm-hmm.
And they're starting off with 2 fights, 4 fighters. This weekend on December 11th, Yanni Perez is fighting a rematch with Joseph Ekbeko, who he'd beaten for the IBF bantamweight title. Right. And Abner Mares, a young upstart bantamweight, is fighting Vic Darchinyan, who has the IBO bantamweight title, but was a accomplished flyweight champion, moved up to super flyweight. Now he's a bantamweight.
So who's the front runner in this tournament?
Well, these matchups are really 50-50 fights. These fighters have their strengths and weaknesses to the point. One of the fights that they previously had, Abner Mares fought Yanni Perez in a draw. Right. Perez and Ekbeko fought in a close decision. Perez beat Ekbeko. Right. Darchinyan, he's a wild card because he's coming up in weight, but he's got that power and he's got an awkward style. So these fights are real hard to call, I would say. But
Fernando Montiel has to win to fight Donaire in February of 2000.
Right, he has to beat Eduardo Garcia this weekend, December 11th, in order to get the big fight with Nonito Donaire next year.
Well, it's all going to play out, and we'll see what happens for the end of the year, and hopefully those two bantamweights will meet in 2011. For Sean Sullivan, Boxing Digest, I'm Jay Monte, TruFan Boxing. Be there in the square. Take care.
Want more? Go to inasectv.com to connect with the world of sports. Real-time updates, blog postings, and all the action you can handle in a sec. inasectv.com, connecting you to the world of sports.